All right, Groot. Let's get one thing straight first. You've been going around saying, "I am Groot," like that's the whole story. But is that really all there is to you? You're a being with a soul, a mind, and yes, a lot of wood, literally. But you've got to stop acting like that's all you are. Let me tell you something. Words matter, Groot. Your identity isn't just a 3-word sentence on repeat. And honestly, you might be missing out on some important things by limiting yourself like that. Think about it. You're saying the same thing over and over again. But the world is full of so much more than just that. Every time you say, "I am Groot," you're focusing on who you were, not who you could be. You're locking yourself into a tiny box. Now don't get me wrong, I love trees. I made a garden once, remember? But you've got to branch out, no pun intended. Let's talk about this. Your identity. You ever wonder if those 3 words truly capture who you are? Because I can tell you right now, they don't. You're way more than a tree walking around with a vocabulary problem. You've got courage, strength, and loyalty, but where's the direction, Groot? Have you ever really taken a moment to figure out where you're going? You've got the whole galaxy in front of you, but are you walking towards something meaningful, or just aimlessly wandering like a plant with no sunlight? I'm not asking you to suddenly become a philosopher here, but here's a tip. Who you are isn't fixed. You have the power to change, to grow, literally and spiritually. And I'm not just talking about becoming a bigger version of yourself. I mean growth in your heart. Yeah, I know you've been through some tough stuff, and there's a part of you that might want to stay in that shell, saying the same thing over and over because it's comfortable. But comfort is not where growth happens, my friend. And believe me, I know something about growth. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. You've got to stop reducing yourself to a catchphrase. Let me remind you, there's more to life than being the strong, silent type. Silence can be golden, but sometimes you need to speak up. Be intentional with your words. Imagine the power you could have if you chose words that built others up, that inspired people instead of leaving them confused, trying to figure out if you mean yes, no, or pass the salt. Now, Groot, let's talk about roots. Yours go deep, but do they go in the right direction? You've got roots in the physical sense, sure, but I'm talking about something bigger. Roots are what ground you. They're what give you strength, but they've got to be rooted in the right soil. If you're not careful, you could end up growing in the wrong direction. See, even a big tree like you can topple if it's not grounded in good values. Let me give you an example from my book. You know the story about the wise man who built his house on rock, right? The winds came, the rain poured, but that house stood firm. Why? Because it had a strong foundation. That's what you need, Groot. You need roots in something solid. Kindness, patience, love. You're out there saving galaxies, but have you ever stopped to think about what's holding you up? You ever notice how trees can't just grow anywhere? You put them in bad soil, they wither. You've got to be sure your roots are sinking into good ground. The people you're around, the decisions you make, those are the nutrients that feed your soul. Surround yourself with darkness and anger, and your roots will rot. Surround yourself with light, hope, and goodness, and you'll grow taller and stronger than you've ever imagined. Here's a tip, Groot. Your roots may be strong, but check the soil. Where are you growing? Are you nurturing the good in your heart? Or are you letting bitterness and anger seep in like poison? Think about it. A tree that's rooted in love can weather any storm, but one rooted in selfishness? Well, let's just say it'll crack the moment things get tough. I'm telling you, Groot, growth isn't just about getting bigger or stronger. It's about where you're planted. Find the right place, the right people, the right values, and your roots will keep you steady no matter what comes your way. So, start paying attention to where your roots are. You're capable of great things, but only if your foundation is solid. You're out there with the guardians of the galaxy, fighting all kinds of bad guys. You've taken on monsters, villains, and even gods. But tell me something, Groot. Are you guarding your own heart with the same energy? Because let me tell you, the real battlefield isn't always out there. It's in here. It's in your heart. Look, I know you've been through some tough stuff. You've fought, you've sacrificed, but have you ever paused to guard what's inside you? All that anger you sometimes feel, that frustration when things don't go your way, that's what I'm talking about. It's easy to get caught up in the battle outside and forget about the one going on inside. The Bible says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, if you're not careful, Groot, that heart of yours could get overwhelmed by bitterness or pride. And those things, they grow faster than you do, trust me. You've got to weed them out before they take root. You've got a good heart, Groot, but sometimes it's easy to let the wrong things slip in. Maybe it's anger over something small, or frustration when your plans don't work out. That stuff builds up, and before you know it, your heart is full of things you never wanted in there. Here's a tip. Guard it. Be mindful of what you let in. You see, it's not just about fighting the bad guys out there. It's about making sure the inside of you stays pure. Don't let anger take over. Don't let fear run wild. Instead, fill your heart with the good stuff. Love, joy, peace. That's where real strength comes from. Not from how many enemies you've defeated, but from how well you guard your heart against the things that can bring you down from the inside. Now, Groot, you're part of a team. The Guardians, right? You're out there saving the universe, and teamwork makes all that possible. But here's the thing. Just because you're part of a team doesn't mean you can skip out on personal responsibility. You've got to hold yourself accountable. See, it's easy to hide behind the group thinking, hey, as long as the team does its job, I'm good. But that's not how it works. You have to look at your own actions. Are you doing your part? Are you making sure you're contributing the right way? Or are you just along for the ride? I've seen you, Groot, and sometimes, when things get tough, you tend to lash out. You know what I'm talking about. Those moments when you lose control and destroy everything in sight. That's not accountability, my friend. That's letting your emotions take over. And if you can't control yourself, how can you expect to be the best version of yourself for your team? Here's a tip. Start owning up to your actions. If you mess up, admit it. Don't just brush it off or think, oh, I'm Groot, I'll grow back. Sure, you'll recover. But what about the damage you've left behind? Accountability means recognizing the impact you have, not just on yourself, but on those around you. It's about being responsible for every branch you break, every step you take. You've got the strength to be a leader, Groot. But leadership starts with self-discipline. You've got to hold yourself accountable before you can expect others to trust you or follow your example. So next time you're tempted to just smash your way through a problem, take a second, breathe, ask yourself, is this really the best way to handle this? You've got the power to do great things, but with great power comes, you guessed it, responsibility. Groot, you've saved the galaxy more than a few times now, and don't get me wrong, that's impressive. But let's talk about something that's just as important, maybe even more so, humility. Now, I know you've got a lot of strength, and you're part of a team full of heroes, but real greatness isn't always about showing off your powers or being the biggest, strongest tree in the room. You ever notice how the strongest people are often the quietest? Not because they have nothing to say, but because they don't need to prove themselves. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Let me give you a tip. Your true strength comes from serving others, not from towering over them. Take me, for example. When I was walking the earth, I wasn't looking to be the most famous or the most powerful. Instead, I washed feet. Think about that for a second. The Son of God, the one with all the power in the universe, was on his knees washing the dirt off people's feet. Now, that's humility. You don't need to make a big show of your strength. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is step back and let others shine. And here's another thing. Don't let pride sneak in. It's easy to think, hey, I've saved the galaxy, I've done enough. But true humility means knowing that there's always more to give, more people to help, more love to show. You've got a big heart, Groot, and sometimes it's hidden behind that tough exterior. But humility is what will let people see the real you. Not the giant, not the warrior, but the friend, the protector, the one who puts others first. That's real heroism. So remember, it's not always about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about how much love and kindness you can give, even when no one's watching.